the key for all men to getting more out of relationships is one, increasing their value and their attractiveness, and then two, knowing how to say no and how to maintain the frame of the relationship and make sure that for the vast majority of it, anyway, she's in your frame, right? And you're not going and doing things that you don't want to go and do. High value man don't do gay shit like go to Woofstock, right? You know, you've got 7 days in your week, 24 hours in each day, and high value guys that are like, I don't see a lot of value in spending 5 hours at this event, will use it doing something else on themselves, improving themselves, doing something that they have in their calendar that needs to get done. I think I might have used this example in the book. I can't recall the details that I gave, but I'll tell you the whole story. I remember I had this gal that I dated, and she had this friend, and you know how like women like to throw like house parties sort of thing, or they get their girlfriends over and they're drinking wine, and they usually bring over their partners. You know, that's the word they use. I'm going to bring over our partner, and it's usually the husband or a boyfriend or some version of that or whatever. And then, you know, you sit around, you eat and you drink and you have a charcuterie board and there's some fucking music and you talk about, and they all cackle and stuff like that. I remember I went to this one once, and I brought my daughter to it, and there was this lady there who was just awful, just fucking wicked, talking down to her husband, disparaging men and masculinity in general, making fun of her husband, you know, basically in front of everybody. It was just a bad look. And I was just put off by it, you know, if you know what I mean, for a number of reasons. One, it's like, I don't want to spend time in rooms with people like that. And two, you don't want your kid seeing examples in life as a small child of how relationships can be. And then they cook up this idea in their head, like, oh, you know, because a lot of the things that your children, you know, your boys and girls that become men and women do as adults are all learned behavior that they see as they're sort of growing up. So I've always made a concerted effort to, you know, if something's bullshit, it's like, that's bullshit, and I'll call it out. Or if there's people that exhibit unfavorable or bad behavior or something that I wouldn't co-sign, I just don't put myself in the room, and I certainly don't put my kid in the room, sort of thing. Because you're more intentional about that, right? Because that's your job as a parent, sort of thing. Anyway, so this lady was, you know, just being awful to her husband, and just, you know, in general. And then I got another invite a few weeks later to do another one, and I politely declined and said, yeah, you know, I'd rather pass if so and so is going to be there. So, you know, you guys have a good night. And I just heard an earful of bullshit. Yeah, a real man would that. You know how it is, right? You know, I think Kevin Samuels talked about it, the sign language. What was it? Shame, insult, guilt need to be right. You know, that acronym. And it was like, you know, the standard, a real man would be just like, have fun, click, right? I get an apology a few days later. She's like, yeah, you're right. You know, she's a toxic person. You know, I'm sorry that I gave you a hard time. So it doesn't matter. Like, at some point they might see the way that it is. They might apologize to you, but a top shelf guy lives his life in an unapologetic manner, navigating it in a way that he sees suits his interests, and just doesn't care. And I know some people right now, they're going to be in the comment,
well, that's not how relationships work. It's about compromise and communication and working on your toxic, unresolved mommy issue.
You know how it is, right? You know, it's the standard stuff. Fuck all that noise. It doesn't matter, because again, if you're a guy on a purpose, you're putting a dent in the universe. You're a good man. You're a kind man. You're not a nice guy. There's a big difference between a kind man and a nice guy. Nice guys get walked all over. Nice guys are people pleasers. Nice guys make covert contracts in their head about, well, if I go to this dinner and I go to this couple's breakfast brunch event or some shit like that, and I go to Woofstock for her, then she's going to reward me with enthusiastic hanging from the chandelier sex like I've never seen before, sort of thing. Guys will, you know, they'll cook up these ideas in their head, you know, if they just give her enough of what she wants. But the truth of the matter is, the more you give her what she wants more often. I put a carbonated water in here with some beet juice, and it's all fucking red. I don't want to get it on my shirts. Give me a second here. The more that you do all of that, the more likely it is that she'll be turned off by you. that she'll cheat on you, that she'll mistreat you in the relationship, that she'll divorce you, take half your shit, and alienate you from your kids. Because women don't leave men that they adore. They don't leave or divorce men that they see as their hypergamous best option, right? So all of this lead up in the relationship, and I keep fucking telling guys this all the time. Like I have private consult after private consult with guys, and this is a recurring theme, right? It's like you're going to get out of life what you tolerate. And a long-term relationship is far more work than just spinning some plates and dating women simultaneously in a non-monogamous fashion, right? Because you're not invested in it. You're not ego invested. It's not like you put time into her family and building relationships and helping them out with shit and all that sort of stuff. And that anchors you. You know what I mean? And a lot of guys will put themselves in a vicious cycle of getting anchored and like tied in to a woman and her network in such a deep way that it makes it hard for them to get out of it until she says, fuck this, I'm out, which is, 80% of the time in divorces. That's a stat. Women untie the knot 8 out of 10 times. So, you like the risk is real. If you can't manage a long-term relationship, if you can't say no and have her be okay with that, you're probably screwed in the long term. The chances of you getting divorce raped, going through the grinder, being alienated from your kids, having your wealth stolen from you through family courts and distributed to legal professionals and her and all that other bullshit go up dramatically. Systematic yeses to everything will make your life miserable over the long term. Women don't want a yes man. They want a fucking man. And men know how to say no. Let me go through some more of these notes here because I've already rambled on for half an hour. So in most relationships, men aren't leaders. I think for the vast majority of the ones that I've examined, and sir, I'm going to be very clear about something. Every single one that I've examined that I've had a private consult with, men aren't leading the relationship. They started out usually leading the relationship. There was something there that sort of hooked her in. She really liked him. But through a process of betatization through 1,000 concessions, they give up the frame and the power transitions over to her. And that's the worst thing you can do. You need to maintain control of that frame over the long term. Women don't want to lead. Despite what you've heard, women are strong and independent, blah, 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 blah. Even those women, even those boss girls, they don't want to lead. They don't want to lead. These are the same women that are judges, that are lawyers, they own they're a C-suite accounting professional in a large firm. They're CEOs or executives and shit like that. These are the same women that want to check all of that crap at the door.